Good afternoon. My name is Imani Johnson. I am a senior at Anacostia High School in the District of Columbia. Also, I am the captain of the cheer team. I participate with a program called Urban Lunch, which provided me with a mentor from Street Law. At Street Law, I interned for Mrs. Johnson, assisting her with programs she oversees. I chose to work at Street Law because in the future, I plan to be a lawyer and then a judge. How was conflict handled during the Civil Rights Movement?
Well, I think conflict during the handling of the civil rights movement was a suspicion of law enforcement activities, looking for excuses and justifications to suppress or to kill protests and demonstrations, and indeed looking for any excuse to discredit Martin Luther King, to see if they could find any excuse to arrest, charge John Lewis or Jesse Jackson with some type of crime. As a matter of fact, that job put me on a tightrope and working for Bobby Kennedy, where I had to, at the same time, try to be faithful to the civil rights movement. But if I saw evidence of wrongdoing, I had to disclose it. That was one of the most delicate jobs that one could have, is not to be an Uncle Tom, not to say just what white men want to hear, but to tell it like it is. But at the same time, not to appear to be a radical, not to be a fellow joiner and stack the deck for them. So I had to be the man in the middle. It was the most difficult assignment, and I frequently would sit down. Bobby's asked me for his view. What should I say to him? How should I say it? What is he would pick up the phone and call the president and tell him I told him. I can tell you about a couple other things too. There was a case of savings and loan scandals in Maryland. Joe Tidings was the U.S. attorney. The Kennedys were concerned that Tidings was a runaway prosecutor and was ready to prosecute two U.S. congressmen, Frank Boykin, Tom Johnson, for government corruption. I was assigned to review the case and convince Bobby Kennedy that if they did not prosecute the case, it could be the Teapot Dome scandal of the Kennedy administration. I ended up being the special prosecutor in that case, an 8-week trial against Edward Bennett Williams, and saved the Kennedy administration from its own Watergate. So I was the key lawyer in handling the government corruption of Frank Boykin and Tom Johnson, Kenneth Edlin, William Robertson. And it's all reported in history books, but no one knows that Arthur Burnett was a black lawyer. That was the lead lawyer. I was the lawyer that argued the case before Simon Soboloff in Fourth Circuit, Hainsworth, and Bussner. I was a lawyer in the case that went to the Supreme Court on the debate clause and immunity of members of Congress that made history in this country.
What were some of the ways in which people protested?
Well, just as they do now, you see people come together in groups and get press media attention. They have the advantage of getting Facebook and Twitter, and those days we didn't have during those days. And they demonstrate and protest and try to appeal to the conscience of people. Personally, I have taken the position that protests and demonstrations is not enough, that black organizations must learn to act in unity, and they must engage in action. They must work with their state legislators, their federal, and they must vote. It is tragic in this country that we elect presidents with less than 50-some% of the people that are eligible to vote actually voted. So we tell them that we need not to be fragmented. We need not to be crabs and everybody want to seek the glory. But let's combine our efforts and let's work with our legislators, both in the state legislatures and in Congress, and those who are divisive, who are bigots, who do not believe in equality and treatment, vote them out of office. But action where it counts, developing a work ethic, self-determination, be a lot more important than just demonstrating. Demonstrating and talking and blowing a lot of hot air won't bring about change. That's what my organization, National African American Drug Policy Coalition, is dealing with now. We are a coalition of 26 member organizations working together in unity to advise not only the black members of Congress, but even the white leaders of both parties, where we see constitutional issues involving civil rights. The purpose of the National African American Drug Policy Coalition is to finish the unfinished business of Thurgood Marshall and of Martin Luther King, to remove the remaining vestiges of unlawful discrimination in all the public sectors of this nation.
What were some of the ways people responded to protests?
President Lyndon Johnson responded to the protests and to the Kerner's Commission by leading to the enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We got justices on the Supreme Court, including Thurgood Marshall as the first African American. We got people like Justice Burnett on the Supreme Court. But the point is, political power has to be exercised. It has to be not just talk in the barbershops and in the kitchens and lamenting and complaining. It requires people to get off their duffs and go vote, and vote for people who have a genuine interest in public interests and equality and respect for the capacities of every individual person. And that's what I advocate as I talk all over this nation. And that's what we're doing. Indeed, one of the reasons that I'm headquarters at Howard University and its law school is that Howard University and Law School is supporting what I'm doing like they supported the abolishment of segregation in America. And I'm the current version of Charles Hamilton Houston and Thurgood Marshall. The dean of the law school has made me the equivalent of the managing partner of a major law firm, where every faculty member on the law school, I can be asked to write a legal brief just like the Congressional Research Service renders an opinion to members of Congress. And while we serve primarily the Congressional Black Caucus members, and I serve as kind of shadow general counsel to all the black members of Congress, many of the white congressmen and senators now ask us for our views, like we are the Black Brothers Institute. That's one of our 5-point missions. The dean of the law school has given me the permission or authority to use the top 10% of my third year law school students as my legal research assistants. So I'm the resident judge at Howard University to resolve the residual issues of unlawful discrimination in this nation. Some people say we are the sleeping giant. And now I get requests from Senator McCain, from Senator Leahy, Derby, and I didn't mention there came a time that I left the judiciary after being the magistrate judge to become the chief lawyer for the entire civil service system and become the primary legislative counsel to Jimmy Carter. And I'm the lawyer that wrote the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978 that revised civil service to bring about equal employment opportunities in 1977 to 1980. I'm the creator of the Merit Systems Protection Board, the Federal Labor Relations Authority, the Office of Special Counsel, and defined the authorities of Office of Personnel Management. I was assigned to the White House for 3 years as an assistant to Sue Eisenstadt and Dave Simmons, where I became like the 6th lawyer in the White House. And along the way, I was a lawyer that put the finishing touches on setting up the U.S. Department of Education.
What type of conflict did you encounter at that time, and how did you handle it?
Well, I'm going to be very frank with you, young lady. Much like your President Obama, being of brown persuasion and skin like you, when Pat Swigert, who later became president of Howard University, and I would render an opinion to the president, they were still farming out to some of the big white law firms and to the legal counsel at the Justice Department saying, "Are these two black guys right?" So the point is, we had to be as careful in writing opinions and telling President Carter what he could do as if we were a super Supreme Court. We had to convince them that our view would carry at least 5 or 6 justices of the Supreme Court. And I can't think of one time that they found a reason to disagree with us. But we were shattered, and we were, I expect, we were scrutinized by white America to see if we were right. So there's a double standard that when you're black, sometimes you have to be superhuman. And you have to show that your opinion and your decision, your recommendations are impeccable. If Obama was a white president doing what he's doing now, he wouldn't get half the flack he's getting.
When is conflict a good thing?
When it is necessary to bring to light injustice, wrongdoing, and detrimental conduct or behavior, then conflict sometimes gets people to focus, get people to think, and not accept the way things are. There's an old statement that those persons who do not know their history will live to repeat it. And there is another old saying that people who continue to do the same thing over and over again and not getting good results is the definition of insanity. So change is essential. Conflict at times causes people to stop and pause and reflect on maybe how we can avoid World War III, how we can avoid going to war in Afghanistan or Iraq today. So the problem is bigger than just race relations. It is a question of survival of humanity. Indeed, I did not tell you, but in the religious world, I'm one of few people in this nation that hold the papal medal from the Pope for being the lecturer in Catholic schools in the Archdiocese of Washington to prevent drug abuse, to encourage educational excellence, and to improve the quality of student performance in Catholic schools for over 20 years. I hold the Ecclesiastical Pontifical Medal, which is the highest medal that a layperson can hold in the Catholic Church. I hold the Lifetime Achievement Award. And in the Episcopal Church, on October 5, 2014, I was appointed a lay minister by the Diocese of Southern Ohio to chair a national commission equivalent to the Kerner Commission of preeminent officials, scholars, experts from the entire nation, to be like the Kerner Commission over the next 3 years to study the discriminatory imperfections in our healthcare, criminal justice, and juvenile justice system and their impact on education, affordable housing, receipt of government benefits, to come up with the Civil Rights Act of 2018 and possible amendments to the United States Constitution, including the education amendment I referred to earlier. On Saturday, March 28, we will be holding at Howard Law School the inaugural meeting of between 30 and 40 prominent individuals, including retired judges, retired head of the Legal Defense Fund, constitutional scholars from John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and we will be seeking from the Open Society, MacArthur Foundation, and Ford Foundation $10 million. The ultimate plan after June of this year, following the General Convention of the Episcopal Church in New York City, is to have this ratified by the entire Episcopal Church for the United States, and to invite every other religious organization in America to join in supporting organizations. This will be a religious-based operation that will be as big as the Kerner Commission was, with reference to the twofold purpose of what a Civil Rights Act of 2018, and it will include even making recommendations to the United Nations dealing with racial profiling throughout the entire world. I'm the chairperson of that operation.